What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Links and Locks podcast, the best bets. I'm Jason Sobel from Golf Bet. He is Ben Everill from the PGA Tour, and over the next little bit, we will go back and forth, making 18 bets, playing 18 holes for this week's Rocket Mortgage Classic. Benny, you missed the pod last week. Spencer Aguiar filled in for you, filled in admirably. You were somewhere drinking out of the claret jug, not returning texts. Is that essentially it?
That's roughly it, mate. It was a big week, as you can imagine, there in Scotland after the big win from Cameron Smith. I tried my best to be available, but let's just say we were still having sips out of that thing into the wee hours of the morning, as they would say. And I do vaguely remember being on the Swilcan Bridge in the darkness and the next morning at some point, where another member, not me, was going to attempt to run across the thing nude or whatever. But thankfully that didn't happen. It was a big party, big few days. And then I stayed a few days behind and actually got to play the course a few days later. So huge effort. And thanks to Spence and everyone else for filling in. It made a magic week for me.
What a terrible time for you. I'm so glad you finally made it back to the States. I suggested on the pod last week that maybe they had kept you out of the States. Maybe some things had happened with the jug and maybe you weren't allowed back. And so I'm just glad that you have made it back home and you're back here. All right, let's get
let me just say before we start, it's been a while. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but I'm pretty sure we did have it on record that I said if Queensland won that State of Origin game, that Cameron Smith would win the Open. And I'm pretty sure a few blokes might have taken me up on that advice and have done pretty handsomely. So I got quite a few texts and things to say so. So I'm glad I could help out in that regard. Good on you, Smitty.
So we, the Action Network, have a Slack channel called Groupers, where a lot of, I don't know if I'm giving out privileged information, but a lot of the folks on there will go, hey, here's an absolutely terrible bet that we should all make. And the Cameron Smith bet, it, in all honesty, was not as terrible as some of the other bets that we make on there. But someone who had been listening to our podcast said, hey, Ben said if Cam's team wins, he wins the Open. They noted that Cam's team had won, what was it, a rugby game you guys are playing on?
The State of Origin, man, it was a complete upset. His Queensland Maroons had their best players out with COVID, then lost two more to concussion in the first few minutes of the game and should have been flogged, but somehow managed to win the game and the series. And from that minute on, I knew there's an omen there. Smitty's odds on, and sure enough, there you go.
And so, yeah, they tailed your bet. By the way, I'd like to know what Rory McIlroy's favorite rugby team is. Maybe if they could have won that week, then my bank account would be a little better. By the way, I'd like to point out that in the pre-Open Championship podcast, you took Cam Smith for a top 10. Yes, you did say if his team wins, he'll win the whole thing. You played him for a top 10. I'll point out I played him for a top 5.
Yeah,
so
you were more gung ho.
More confidence in him than you did.
Yes, well done.
All right, we get on to business at hand. The Rocket Mortgage Classic, and as always, playing 18 holes. You are first on the tee, Ben Everill. Swing away.
Let's keep the land from down under going here, mate. My first outright bet, either my second favourite to win this week, is the defending champion, Cam Davis. I think you can get about 35-1 or even better in some places. As I said, he's the defending champ. This place sets up just perfectly for him. It's guys who can hit the ball long and still keep it somewhat in play. He's gaining strokes on the average, off the tee, on approach, in putting. His last 3 results are all top 16s, I believe, T8, 6th, and T16. Trending into this title defence. Wants a last-minute crack at that International President's Cup team. I think Cam Davis will have another big week this week.
It's so nice to know that you can leave for a week and yet you and I are still sharing one brain, because once again, and for the folks who haven't listened before, we do this all the time where you make 9 picks, I make 9 picks. We don't talk to each other before this. We just sit down and start talking on the pod. But I have mine written down. You have yours written down. I will skip my first play that I have on my little index card here that I'm showing you. Go right to the second play, which is a top 5 on the defending champ, Cameron Davis. I am doing the exact same thing. Look, I hate playing defending champs. Sort of like going to the roulette table, looking at what number just hit and putting all your money on that number. Essentially, you're just chasing. There's more responsibilities on that player as far as media, as far as fans, as far as the the tournament sponsor. And Cam Davis hasn't been there before. It's his only win. So this is the first time he's going to go through that experience. That said, he's playing really well. 3 straight finishes of 16th or better. Obviously, this course, Detroit Golf Club suits his game. And so I'm right there with you, top 5 at plus 650.
All right, mate. Well, I'll jump on to the third hole. And this is definitely a what have you done for me lately pick. But I'm going to ride the hot hand of Tony Finau, the accidental winner, and have him for a top 10 play at plus 170. Again, I think this is a course that suits the longer hitters. I think that he'll get a big buzz out of what he was able to do with his entire family there. And while I don't think he'll win again, I think he'll be up and about. And just whether he can keep that going through the 4 rounds is my only concern. I feel like he might have one dodgy round in him this week, but if you can keep it amongst the top 10, I think you can still get the value there to ride his hot hand plus 170.
Yeah, I think top 10 is a nice play for that. I think you're right. He's probably not going to go back-to-back, but being a little conservative with the Finau play is pretty smart this week. I'm going with a bigger number for my top 10. It's a guy who's shown tremendous upside. He's an all-or-nothing type of player. He's high ceiling, low floor. That's okay. When I'm betting on these higher-end props, I want a guy who at least has that type of potential. Kurt Kitayama has 3 finishes in the top 3 so far this year. When he's not good, he's really not good. I believe he has 10 missed cuts and 17 starts this year. But like I said, those good ones have been really good. He's shown he can contend, hits the ball a long way, really good driver of the golf ball. He's 8-1, plus 800 for a top 10 this week. I really like that number on him.
Yeah, mate. As we've talked about a few times, I've jumped on him for top 40s and been able to get that. But clearly he's could have got a better number, going a bit more aggressive. So nothing wrong with having a crack at Kitayama when he's on. He is on. All right, well, I'm going to go my top 5. You already had your top 5 play. 5th hole, top 5. Here's a guy who is gaining strokes off the tee, which is important this week. Also doing pretty well on approach, mid-tour, about 68th, 70th or so in approach. Also ahead of the game in that same area around that middle, but just enough to get ahead of the game in putting. Keeps popping up. Top 5 on Davis Riley this week, plus 750. 750 is a great number, I feel like, on Davis Riley this week for top 5. He's been knocking on the door. He is going to have another big week at some point. Why not this one?
Last week was the Davis Riley week. I feel like a lot of people jumped on him. Shot 73, 71, missed the cut by a stroke. The ball striking numbers were solid, and I feel like a lot of people are going to jump off of him this week. Probably a bad idea. If you were on him last week, stay on him this week. If you weren't on him last week, maybe get on him this week, because I do like that as well. I think Davis Riley's bound for a good week. He had been rested. He'd taken about a month off after the Travelers Championship until last week. And so maybe just a little bit of rust setting in before we played the 3M Open. All right, we get to the 6th hole, and very much like Kitayama, I'm following a similar blueprint here for my top 20, a guy who's got a high ceiling and a low floor. And I'll tell you that because in his last 12 starts, he's got 6 finishes of 27th or better and 6 missed cuts. Again, I'm okay with that. Look, it's not like he's finishing in 38th place every week. He's either really good or really poor. That's the rookie Alex Smalley. I like this kid's game. This kid's, I'm telling you, he's really good. He's in a spot now on the FedEx Cup points list where he should be safe going into the playoffs. And I think that frees up a player like him where he can maybe play some of his better golf. And quite frankly, I assume he's going to play the Wyndham next week. I might like him better at the Wyndham even than this week, but back-to-back Donald Ross courses, and I do like Smalley for a little 2-week stretch.
Mate, speaking of guys who may be a better pick at the Wyndham, but I'm going to jump on this week anyway, I've got a guy for a top 20 at just plus 140 who I think is really going to make a concerted push through to this FedEx Cup playoffs and make his presence felt while he can, and that is another Aussie in Adam Scott. Top 20 plus 140. Adam Scott, if he can keep it relatively on the map off the tee, which he's known to be able to do normally, his approach game has been very good this season. He's about 30th on tour. And believe it or not, he is running about 40th or 39th in strokes gained putting this season. If Scotty can get it out there get it on these greens and jag a few putts. He just has that game, that style that could contend at Detroit Golf Club. So look, I do think obviously Wyndham, where he was part of that massive playoff and fell away when he should have won it, maybe a better week for him, but I think he's going to trend into that. So top 20, Adam Scott, 140.
I like that. I am not on any Adam Scott, but very interesting that he's playing this week. He's really only played big time events so far this year, and I wonder. I don't know if you know this. You're very tight with some of the Aussies. Is there a reason why Adam Scott's going to Detroit this week?
There is a reason that he's sitting just outside the top 70, I believe, in the FedEx Cup list. He'd love to be able to sort of boost his numbers so that he had a really big chance at that top 30. There's a significant attraction to being in the top 30 for Adam Scott and some other guys by the end of this season. He is putting all his eggs in that basket. So I like to think that he's picked a course he thinks he can contend at. That's why he's there.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I'm going to go with eighth hole, 3 top 40 plays. And these are guys that each have pretty good numbers next to their names for top 40s. All young guys, I believe, actually all PGA Tour rookies. Yeah, they are. But these are guys that at this point in the year, if you're still calling yourself a rookie, you're probably doing it wrong. They've been out on tour for 10 months and kind of know the lay of the land a little bit. Hayden Buckley, Lee Hodges, Taylor Moore. Guys who we've seen pop up on leaderboards throughout the year, but all of them having good years. Not great. They're not Cameron Young. They're not Davis Riley. Guys who we've mentioned, Sahith Theegala, who's playing in this field. But they're very solid rookies, guys who they're going to enjoy, each of these 3 guys, a more traditional trajectory over the next 3 or 4 years, which is keep your card the first year, build on that the next year, maybe contend for a couple of titles, get into more serious contention, move your way up. By the 3rd or 4th year, maybe win a PGA Tour event at some point. For now, top 40 plays at plus money, I think are really smart plays on these guys.
Yeah, mate, I'd love to disagree with you, as you know, but I can't across there. I think you're spot on with their trajectory as well. I think that it's good things ahead for these guys, and they'll take it as it comes, and that'll be good for them, and it'll put them in good stead down the line. All right, head to the turn with a long shot like I like to do, and producer Matt's going to be wearing out the men at work this podcast. But at 100 to 1, Jason Day is someone I'm looking at here. Look, I know you guys hate this pick. I know you think that he's got nothing, but what I've been able to ascertain talking to him and hanging out with him a little bit and getting the lay of the land on his body and whatnot, it's there. It's just a matter of him putting together. And the reason I keep bringing him up as the long shot is I reckon you put a small unit on this guy every chance you get, because at some point he is going to win again. At some point it's going to click. This is a course where he can just sort of wail away and get away with it, bomb it out there, as long as he doesn't get too crooked into the tree lines. If his short game turns up, he'll be okay. Now, could he shoot 80, 79? Absolutely. He could easily do that. But I'm going to keep banging on his drum for a long shot while he's 100 to 1 or more, while I can, because at some point he will stand up and win again.
Benny, do they have Kool-Aid in Australia?
We call it cordial.
Okay, well, you're drinking cordial.
I am.
There.
Look, it's 100. You're 100% right. Look, I don't expect many people to jump in with me, and I would not tell people to put a lot on Jason. But I'm just going to say that there will come a time when no one expects him to win, that he'll win.
Okay, I will if I can get them, and they've been matched up against each other a lot for certain reasons. But I'll take Ricky Fowler in a matchup over Jason Day this week.
Oh, you and I can go. Yeah, let's have some side action on that.
Okay, that's fair.
79 versus 80.
Yeah, exactly. Before we make the turn, tell us about PGA Tour Pick'em Live this week.
Yeah, that's where we look at those long shots. We get free bets at PGA Tour Pick'em Live, and you're trying to win up to $5,000 worth of prizes. It just mirrors betting, but without the risk. You know, you're going to pick a winner, top 10, top 20. You can also get guys every round, whether it be 2 balls, 3 balls, first round leader, etc. You can change your picks anytime that the market's alive with PointsBet, but you get the value of what it is when you take that. So always sort of err to the long shots. I said I like Jason. There's a few other guys that you can get on early. Once you do that, then you can go from there.
All right, you led us right into the back nine, and I'd be remiss if I didn't start with a long shot myself to help the people out with their PGA Tour Live Pick'em plays this week. A guy that won on the PGA Tour 3 weeks ago and kind of went under the radar just because we weren't really paying attention to the opposite field event at the Barbasol Championship. But Trey Mullinax remains at 130 to 1, even though he's fresh off a win not that long ago. That's a really good number. Look, I've had multiple players tell me over the last couple of years when we're just kind of chit-chatting, hey, give me a name or two that's a player who nobody talks about, and yet they're more talented than we realize. And Mullinax's name has come up multiple times. He's a really good player, hits it a long way. This course should suit him. Now that he's got one win under his belt, Benny, he's literally playing with house money, nothing to lose this week. Who knows? I mean, every once in a while, we see the floodgates open up for a player where they win one event and they go out there and win another one pretty quickly. At 130 to 1, I'll take a chance on it this week from Mullinax.
Oh, mate, I'm surprised I didn't pick up on him when I did some quick research, because I'm pretty sure he's inside the top 25 off the tee, in the top 10 driving distance.
Yep.
He's somewhere in the top 30 or so birdie average, which you're going to need to make a lot of birdies this week. That's a good bloke to sprinkle across all, like little at the top, but just a little more as you go down those 5, 10, 40s, etc. Absolutely good call, one that I've missed. So well played by you, sir. I'll go into my 11th hole top 40 then, and this is your mate. I'm going to go with Brendan Steele, plus 110, fourth in strokes gained off the tee on tour this year, which makes me think that if he brings his A game, top 40 shouldn't be beyond him. I know there's a bit of talk that he hasn't played here much, and when he did, he didn't really love the joint. But if he can get, forget that and just come out and play and do his best, a couple of stats suggest that he could be up and amongst it. So when I was looking at those guys in the plus money in the top 40, he jumped out at me because of that simple fact that he's fourth on tour off the tee.
I think he has forgotten it. He played there in 2019, finished in 55th place. I'm pretty sure I remember texting with him a few years ago, and he didn't love Detroit Golf Club, skipped it last year, and now he's back this year, Benny. Hopefully he has forgotten, and hopefully you're right that he goes out there and has a good week, because with his driving prowess behind, I believe, only Rahm, Cameron Young, and Rory McIlroy this year on the driving list, he should have a pretty good week. It should fit him. All right, 12th hole, and as always, we're recording this podcast on Monday. Tee times aren't out yet. I'm going to go with the same guy for first round leader that I went with last week, and hope a little bit of reverse psychology should be able to back my pick. Last week, he got a little screwed being in the afternoon draw, being late afternoon really on Thursday, and most of the good scores in Minnesota were on Thursday morning. Hopefully get some morning tee time, but shouldn't be too drastic of a differential this week. Wyndham Clark is another guy who should be set up really well on this golf course. He's played it once, 19th place 3 years ago at 80 to 1 for a first round leader play. He's got really strong Thursday opening round numbers. I like his fit for this golf course, and I like him especially in the opening round. I don't know about a full 4-round play on Clark this week. He's coming off, this is his fourth straight event, which includes the first two that were in Scotland. He's got to be just wiped out at this point. Hopefully he's getting some rest. Hopefully he's a little bit refreshed for the final kick here of the season, but I do like him for at least one good round on Thursday.
I like that, mate. Look, I'm going to go straight into my first round leader then, and I have a little bit of a heads up here that I know this guy will be playing in the morning on Thursday as part of a few featured groups. And the reason I'm going to go with him here, which is not a good number, but I hate his number for outright, even though I think he's got a massive chance, that's Patrick Cantlay. Cantlay is 8 to 1 to win this tournament. It's just too low for me on a Bombers course. But yet he's obviously very good off the tee, very good on approach, coming in to defend his FedEx Cup title very soon. So the 20 to 30 to 1 you can get for first round leader, given that now I know he goes up in the early stages of Thursday, to me, that's where I might grab some Cantlay value early in the week. And if, go with that. I just don't love the 8 to 1 that you're getting for the 4 rounds to begin. So if you want a Cantlay play that gives you a little bit more meat, there's your chance. First round leader, he's going off early Thursday.
Yeah, I like that because I think people are going to look at this field, especially fresh off Tony Finau's victory as the pre-tournament favorite at the 3M Open last week, and think, I want to get some investment in the tournament favorite, but I don't want to pay down to 8-1 to have him with an outright ticket. There's got to be another way to get him. I think first round leader is a nice way. I don't mind him in DFS lineups. I think you can play around with those lineups and still have some pretty nice lineups with Cantlay in there. Maybe a one and done play. If you haven't used him yet, maybe you're saving him for the FedEx Cup playoffs where he played so well last year. But I don't mind getting Cantlay in there this week either because he's got that win equity. All right, hole 14. Matchups not out yet, at least in a couple of the books that I've checked. So I'll give you names and you can fill in the guys that they're going to beat later. But I've got two names for you. Taylor Pendrith is another guy. The books love Taylor Pendrith, Benny. I don't get it. Yeah. He's 70-1 in DraftKings. He's a lot shorter than some players that he shouldn't be shorter than. That said, I really like him. I'm sitting there looking for a good number on him. I'm like, 70-1. I mean, look, 70-1 is not a terrible number, but I'd still like something a little bit deeper than that. It's probably because since coming back from a rib injury, he's played twice, finished 11th and 13th. And so I do like Pendrith. And the other guy I've got here who's going off at 80-1 right now, Patrick Rodgers is starting to show flashes of the Patrick Rodgers that we always thought he could be. Hits it a long way off the tee, much like Pendrith, much like most of my plays, hint, hint, that I've listed here in the podcast. Rodgers with 6 finishes of 35th or better in his last 8 starts. I will hammer him in some matchups against guys who are of similar ilk, guys who are somewhere in the 70 to 90, 100 range this week.
All right, since you've done your matchups, I'll go to the two guys that I was looking at too in that same scenario. You mentioned one of them, Patrick Rodgers, I think is someone to keep an eye on in any matchups if you get him as an outsider. I'm going to be completely wacko here, and I'm going to say here's a guy to fade for no other reason in that he's just way up in the betting, and I think there'll be guys that can beat him, and that is Will Zalatoris. I'm going to fade Zalatoris against similar players. Can Zalatoris win this week? Yes, absolutely. If he keeps it in down the middle and on the green, with these 3-line fairways, etc., he can win. But I just have a feeling this is not his week, and as such, I think that you probably get value in matchups against him.
Okay, well, you notice I haven't mentioned Zalatoris yet. I might be waiting till the end, so we might not be on the same page with that one. Before I do mention Zalatoris, let's get to the 16th hole, where I've got a little scoring prop for you. If you can find it, whatever the under is for the winning score this week, take it. It looks like absolutely perfect conditions in the 80s, sunny, not much wind, no rain this week. These guys are going to tear up this golf course. We saw Nate Lashley with a winning score 3 years ago at 263. Usually these courses, when they first get on the PGA Tour, are set up a little cautionary, a little conservative, and players can put up some good numbers. Lashley shot a pair of 63s that week. The next year, Bryson DeChambeau shot 265. Last year, Cam Davis, quote unquote, only 270, and maybe that moves the line. I have not seen a scoring prop yet. I'm guessing it's somewhere in the 269.5 to 270.5. If it's somewhere around there, play the under. Like I said, dome-like conditions, they're going low this week.
All right, mate. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be lights out. We're going to go, barring a massive change in the weather, it's going to be deep, deep, deep. And one guy who's going to go deep and is going to win this week, I'm very comfortable with this outright pick. I don't know why, maybe more so than I've been in a long time. But we had Cam Davis win last year. We had Cam Smith win the Open, but Cameron Young is going to win this week. Cameron Young has been clearly the best rookie on tour this year. Had a very good chance, obviously, to win the Open against Smitty. Awesome eagle under pressure on the last to do that. His putter wasn't there for him all week. If it had have been, he would have won that thing going away, let me tell you, or at least him and Rory would have had a battle if they both could make a few more putts. Second off the tee, this year, Cameron Young. 21st tee to green, 9th on birdie average, 7th driving distance. This place sets up directly for him. This season almost owes him a victory. This is where I think it comes. think he's 18 to 20 to 1, depending on where you look. Cameron Young has been setting up for this week, and I think he kills it.
I love everything about Cameron Young. I agree that this is a great course for him. And quite honestly, he's matchup proof. He's a guy that's finished top 3 6 times this season. And there's 6 completely different golf courses, which I love about him. You don't really have to worry about where he's playing. That said, it should help that he's playing this week at a golf course that should reward his power off the tee. That said, gets to the 18th hole, and I don't even think Cam Young is going to be low Wake Forest roommate this week, because I'm going with the guy that he played with in college, Will Zalatoris. You said to fade him. I'm all over him this week. It's just been too long. The 13th ranked player in the world. Look, the guy hits it a long way. He's got all the tools. There are 2 things that have me a little hesitant this week, Benny. The first is that some of his best golf tends to happen at courses that have a little bit tougher scoring conditions. We saw him at the PGA, saw him at the US Open, saw him at Torrey Pines earlier in the year. I don't know that he can go out in a birdie fest and just make more than everybody else. That said, ties into the second reason, which is sometimes that putter, I don't know if you've noticed, but it doesn't look completely like the best putting stroke in the world. So let's just hope this is not one of those weeks where it doesn't look bad. I'm just hoping he hits everything to 2 feet this week and taps it all in. But I do think it's about time Zalatoris cleans up. And I will tell you that most of my DFS lineups so far, Benny, start with Zalatoris and Cameron Young, and then move down the list with 4 other guys somewhere down in the 7,000s.
Let me say this about Zalatoris before people think I've completely written him off. I do think he's going to win before this season is out. I just don't think it's this weekend.
Oh.
I honestly feel like he is going. If he plays next week, I'll pick him as my outright. If he plays Wyndham, and if he doesn't win there, he'll win one of the playoff events. It's the same narrative that I'm thinking with Cam Young. I just think they both deserve a victory at some point. Mm-hmm. I just felt that this is Young's moment, and Zalatoris might be able to step up, as you said, where it's a little bit harder, maybe in the playoffs or Wyndham, where everyone's really pushing hard to get their positioning. I'm not off on Zalatoris altogether, just this week.
All right. Hopefully it's a big week for the Wake Forest guys, each looking for a first career PGA Tour win. Let's hope at least one of them has one next week, and one of us will have some bragging rights. He's Ben Everill. I'm Jason Sobel. Thanks so much for listening to the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast. Remember, you can find us everywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, listen every single week. Good luck with your bets for this week's Rocket Mortgage Classic. Here's hoping you hit the green.